Yo, gotta go back to my planner. Gotta go back to my planner. That's right. Today's quote in the Morning Five Planner states, and today's quote, and I quote, it says, "The man who masters his reactions masters his life. The man who masters his reactions masters his life." This was submitted by Weston Randall. Thank you, Weston Randall. The man who masters his reactions masters his life. That's a great way for us to start this morning. As I read that earlier, when I did my gratitude and goals and all that good stuff, when I read that earlier, I thought, man, there's nothing more powerful than someone like a leader who's in control. And there's nothing weaker. There's absolutely nothing weaker, as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing weaker than someone who's blowing their top, who's completely lost their cool, right? And I've been there, and unfortunately, I've been there lots of times. I've been there lots of times where I completely freaking lose it, man. Like, total meltdown. Have you ever been there? You ever been in total, like, meltdown mode? And afterwards, you feel it, you know? You feel the weakness that comes with completely and totally losing your stuff. Tony said last night, right? But you feel it after, you're like, ah! Golly, man, it's such a weak space. And so I read that this morning, I thought about it, and I'm like, bro, so much truth. The man who masters his reactions masters his life. And the reason that you can master your life through control of your emotions is because if you can control your emotions, it puts you in a position of authority and power. Not just authority and power in other people's eyes, but authority and power in your eyes. And that, my friends, leads us right into this week's topic as we're talking about AI and looking at it from a little bit different angle this week. It's really important that we understand this is not one of these things where we're going to be reactionary to what is happening and allowing fear and emotion to keep us from the opportunity. No. This is one of those things where we're going to go, I got the power. I've got the power. And with that power, with that strength, and with that control, creates an opportunity for us to master our lives. We've got a great show for you today. I'm glad you're here. Let's dive in. Good morning and welcome to the #1 morning show in America. I am your host, Glenn Lundy, husband to 1, father to 9, author, speaker, and the founder of 800%.life. It's 5:30 a.m. and it's time to rise and grind. Hey, good morning. How are you, my friend? How are you, my friend? Dude, today is Wednesday. That's right, today is Wednesday, a.k.a. CMA Day. That's right, Carter Myers Automotive Group. Most amazing automotive group on the planet, led by our friend Liza Myers-Borges. I believe Liza is already here with us this morning. Hi, Liza. You sent me a message 2 days ago, and I meant to message you again last night saying, yo, what's the week look like? Let's set up a time. You and I will have that conversation. But I hope you're having a great morning. CMA Day, Carter Myers Automotive Group. Carter Myers Automotive Group has 27 dealerships, pretty much around like the Virginia type area. And they have over 1,200, I believe, 1,300 people that work as a part of that organization. It's just an incredible organization. It's grown a ton over the last few years. If you are ever interested in being a part of a growing, powerful, incredible organization, you should let me know. I'll plug you in with Miss Liza and her team. They've got all kinds of jobs, all kinds of roles, whether you've been in auto industry, haven't been in the auto industry, pretty amazing place to work. So we call Wednesday CMA days because for years I had the honor of working with her and her organization and the members of her team, incredible human beings, having the opportunity to build relationships with them every single Wednesday. And so for years now, today is CMA day. That's how we roll. It's also May 20th, 2026. And what's crazy is today is the very first and the very last time it'll ever be Wednesday, May 20th, 2026. So I want to make sure we make the absolute most. And I do mean the absolute most of this absolutely incredible day. Coming to you live from Lexington, Kentucky. We're looking at decent weather today. I like it. It's going to be a little bit hot, maybe a little bit muggy, but it'll be all right. It'll be all right. It'll be all good right here in Kentucky. So super excited to have an incredible day here today. I'm also coming to you live on Facebook. I'm coming to you live on TikTok. I'm coming to you on replay on YouTube. I'm coming to you on replay on Facebook. I'm coming to you live in Clubhouse in the Breakfast with Champions room. And we are also coming to you on replay wherever you like to listen to your favorite podcast. I am here Monday through Friday, 5:30 a.m., bringing you motivation, education, and inspiration. And this is episode, I believe, 2002. Now, coming to you live from Lexington, Kentucky. Now, yesterday, right here in Lexington, we had just over about 40 people from the auto industry are here in our offices. We're doing a 2-day 2026 sales accelerator workshop, and it kicked off yesterday, and my goodness, we had a blast. We had some really good food, too. But I just got to meet some pretty incredible people yesterday. My day yesterday, I was planning on popping in there for about an hour and a half, letting my team do the rest. I ended up over there all day yesterday. There's just some incredible people. It's what I love about what we do is we get to bring people together, equip them with the tools they need to succeed, and inspire them to be great in so many ways. JP says Patty gave him some Clubhouse coins. Okay, cool. I don't know what a Clubhouse coin is, but I'm going to learn today. So yesterday was a great day, day one of the workshop. Today is day 2 of the workshop, and I'm super excited about it. It's high energy. It's impactful. Now, I have other things I need to do today, so I probably can't hang out with them all day, but my friends Fred and Lou are coming down, so they're going to be able to fill in where I can't, and hopefully they can give me the skinny. Now, yesterday, there were some really great questions that were asked in these sessions. Hi, Tara. Hi, Trish. Hi, Mike Larkin. What's up, Gene Hughes? Russell Hill, thanks for being here. So yesterday we had some great questions. One person stood up and said, Glenn, I need to know, how can I be a better leader? I want to be a better leader. And as I always do when I get a great question, I take a moment to really think about what they're asking, and then I try my best to connect it to some sort of story, because I learned a long time ago from the greatest best-selling book of all time that the best lessons are always delivered with a story, which makes them easier to remember. And so I was like, great question. How do you become a better leader? Well, I once asked that question too. And when I asked that question, I started doing the research and extracting what it means to be a great leader. And then I also realized that in order to have a real model of what it takes to be a great leader, once I know all that information, then I have to be able to effectively communicate what it means to be a great leader for myself to understand it and for others. And then at that point, I have to break it down to the simplest thing possible so that it can be repeatable, because nothing is scalable if it's complicated. You guys understand that? If there's confusion and chaos, it cannot be duplicated. A communication of an idea is so crucially important. Simplicity of an idea is so crucially important. Scalability of an idea only comes if it is not complex. And so in studying what it takes to be a greater leader over years, I had created an acronym for the word lead. This acronym makes it simple and easy to understand. What does it take to be a great leader? How can I be a great leader? Well, you listen, encourage, advise, and develop daily. That's what great leaders do. Great leaders listen twice as much as they speak. They encourage and celebrate people for who they are, make people feel special, feel important, feel like they're the only one. They advise people. They tell people the truth. Hey, here's the thing that you need to work on. The most important people in our lives are the ones who are willing to tell us the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when we don't want to hear it. And then the best leaders develop people. They take the time. They don't just say, here's what you need to do, now go do it. They say, here's what you need to do, and then they walk you through it. And the best leaders, they do these 4 things every single day. They listen, encourage, advise, and develop. Listen, encourage, advise, and develop. Listen, encourage, advise, and develop. So when he asked this question, Glenn, how can I be a greater leader? I said, well, and I went on my whiteboard and I wrote the acronym and basically did what I just did for you. You got to listen, encourage, advise, and develop. And I went into a little bit more detail because I had a little bit more time. He said, thank you. And then the next person asked me a great question. They said, hey, Glenn, how can we increase overall our average? The average salesperson in the industry sells between 8 and 12 cars a month. How do we take that to 20 cars a month? You guys are always talking about an 800% club, how people sell 1 car a day. How do we do that? And so I do what I always do. Anytime somebody asks me a great question, I take a time and I pause for a second, and then I think about the answer that I need. And then I think, okay, now that I've got this answer that comes from previous experience, now that I've got this answer, how do I clearly communicate it in a way that they can understand, which is typically in a form of a story, and I make it so simple that it can be duplicated and that it can be scaled, right? So how do I increase my average to where everyone sells from 10 cars a month to 20 cars a month? Well, I asked myself that question once before. When I asked myself that question once before, what I realized is that if you want a certain result from people, you got to put people in a position to get that result. I'll say that one more time for the people in the back. If you want a certain result from people, you have to put people in a position to get the result. Too many times we're asking people to do something, but not putting them in a position to be able to do so. So when I asked myself that question, when I was running a store, how do I get everybody to 1 car a day every day that they're at work? Well, I needed a formula, a mathematical formula that puts them in a position to be able to do so. So I just ran a bunch of math and looked at statistics across the industry. And what I realized is that if I have 8 contacted leads, and I do it right, that will turn into 5 appointments. And if I do those appointments right, that'll turn into 3 people actually showing up in my dealership. And if 3 people show up in my dealership, at least one of them will buy a car, guaranteed every single time, no matter what. So a very simple, clear, concise formula is 8 leads, 5 appointments, 3 shows per salesperson per day. We call it the 8-5-3-1 formula. So I shared that yesterday. He said, thank you. Then I had another person ask me a great question. He said, hey, Glenn, I'm curious. You've lived many lifetimes in your life, and there was a time where you were homeless, and there was a time where you were in and out of jail, and there was a time where you were battling depression, and there was a time where you were experiencing all these things, and now here you are. You don't deal with depression. You're no longer homeless. You've had success in your business and your life. And unlike a movie where things just kind of happen overnight, unlike a movie, in real life, these things take time. And so, Glenn, I'm curious, what was that season in between from homeless and suicidal to successful and building a business? That gap in between, did you just all of a sudden snap your fingers and everything changed? Or what was it like? And I said, man, that's a great question. So I did what I always do when somebody asks a great question, is I broke it down in my head. What exactly are they asking? Now, how can I clearly communicate this answer back to them in a simple way that's scalable, that ultimately they can duplicate? And I said, well, to be honest, it was a series of taking one step forward and 3 steps back. And after a while, it was 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And then it became 1 step forward and 1 step back. And at some point, it started to shift to where it was 2 steps forward and 3 steps forward and 4 steps forward. And really what caused that shift is I studied a bunch of successful people, and I realized that all successful people have a powerful morning routine that taps into mind, body, and spirit. And so I started learning a powerful morning routine that would allow me to tap into mind, body, and spirit. And through that entire process of learning what it takes to have a powerful morning routine, I realized that there are 5 simple steps to an extraordinary life. And that if I can just master those 5 simple steps every single day, if I can take control of 1 hour of my day, that 1 hour can lead into an hour and a half. That hour and a half can lead to 2 hours. That 2 hours can lead to 3. The 3 hours can lead to 4. The 4 hours can lead to 5. If you can control 15 minutes of your life, you can control 15 years of your life. So I broke down the morning 5 for him, 5 simple steps to an extraordinary life. Never hit the snooze button. Don't touch your phone first thing in the morning. Write down your gratitude and goals. Take care of yourself physically and send out an encouraging message. And I broke that down in a way that was clear and concise so that he could duplicate it, so that ultimately he could apply it in his life and get a result. Do you see where I'm going here? The system is always the same. The process is always the same. Another person asked me how I grow on social media. I did the same thing. I thought about what they're really asking. I thought about how I could reply in a way that's clear and concise. I thought about a system that they could ultimately use to duplicate and repeat in their life. And the system that I taught them is if you post 2 times a day using the 4 P's of social media, which is a personal post, professional post, a purposeful post, and a poll. If you do that every single day, twice a day, 4 P's twice a day, 4 P's every single day, you'll grow on social media. I share all that with you because it was a great reminder for me. Everything is a system. Everything is a process if you want to be able to execute it on the regular. You see what it takes in order to be able to grow and become as the best version of yourself that you can possibly be is you have to have the ability to recognize a pattern. And once you've recognized that pattern, you have to have the ability to clearly communicate it. And then once you can clearly communicate what that pattern is, ultimately you can apply it. And when you apply it, after it's applied in your life, then you can duplicate it. I'll say that again for my friend Joan who just joined us. Joan, you have to have the ability to recognize a pattern. Once you recognize the pattern, you need to be able to clearly communicate it to yourself and to others. Once you can clearly communicate it, then you can apply it. And once you apply it, then you can duplicate it. And what's crazy is this is the way of the human, my friends. This is the way of the human. I've had plenty of kids. I see it over and over and over again. This is how babies evolve. This is how human beings become what we are today. You start off as a child recognizing patterns of speech, patterns of color, patterns of when we eat and when we sleep, patterns of how people engage and interact with each other. You start watching all of these different patterns and behaviors. You start seeing where failure happens, where success happens. You have the pattern of touching the things that are hot and getting burned, the pattern of trying to balance on your legs and falling down. You start figuring out and recognizing the patterns that get you moving in the direction you want to go. Now, as you get older in life, this never changes. From the baby recognizing patterns of speech to be able to form words, to the veteran adult who many years later has discovered the patterns in life that bring them to being the best versions of themselves who they can possibly be. The patterns, the rhythms, the results in their lives based on what's worked and what hasn't worked. And interestingly enough, if you take this up to the highest scale, and some people will probably get a little offended by this statement, it might cause a little controversy. I might end up with some things in my inbox, but this, my friends, is how we grow and develop consciousness. You see, we're all born children of God with a soul, with a spirit instilled within us. But there's a reason that there's a process. There's a reason that we're not born just all of a sudden with wisdom and an understanding of the world around us. Consciousness is not something we are born with. It is something that is trained. It is something that is acquired. It is something that we learn over time as we experience this thing called life. Now, here's what's interesting, and this is where I'm going, and we don't have time today to do a whole bunch of dancing and singing and saying good morning because we got a lot to cover. I do want to say thank you for being here. If you would, please hit the share button. If you would, please tag your friends. But I'm going to keep going because we're translating this consciousness thing and this experience of humans to this consciousness thing and experience of because if you actually go back to the very beginning, not the very beginning, but if you go back to the most recent aha moment, here's what you find.
Around 2016, we had a farm of grippers, robotic arms that can grip things. The way our team decided to program them using artificial intelligence was to build a farm of grippers, not teach them anything, put a box of children toys in front of each and every one of them and ask them to try. And typical of artificial intelligence, and typical of intelligence in general, if you think of a child learning to put a cylindrical peg in a square hole until it figures out the relation between the shape of the hole and the shape of the object, the machines were doing exactly that. It was on the second floor, next to the staircase, when my office was on the third floor, and I would climb up every day and look at them failing and telling myself, why did we invest in this? This is not going to happen. Until one day I was walking by and I noticed that one of the arms managed to actually grip one object, which was a soft yellow ball. I was like, well done. All of that investment and we grabbed the ball. But that wasn't the truth. The truth is that by Monday when I went to work, almost every one of them was grabbing the yellow ball almost every time. And then a few weeks later, every one of them was grabbing everything all the time. And that hit me really strongly at two levels. One is the speed at which things happen, but also to the independence, autonomy, and total freedom to learn that those machines had, and how that led them to become something that humans take 2.5 years to learn, to grip properly. And it basically resembles being. It resembles a child in so many ways. And that was the moment when I started to ask myself, where is this going? If they can do that in a few weeks, what can they do in a few months or a few years? The problem...
This is how the AI has been trained. This is why this AI thing is wild and crazy in so many ways. We're talking about artificial intelligence this week on the show, and I want to talk about it in a little different way that you might not have heard or thought of. But if you think about it, basically what Mo Gaudat just shared there is they put these gripping hands, robotic gripping hands, attached with artificial intelligence and just said, hey, learn. And forever and ever and ever, it didn't know what it needed to do, just like a baby that doesn't know what to do. But then ultimately it felt around and it discovered a pattern. And it discovered that it could grab the yellow ball with its grippers. And once it figured out to grab the yellow ball, the pattern, then it figured out how to communicate that clearly to other AIs. And then once it could communicate it clearly, it was able to execute it regularly. And then it repeated it until it was mastered. Now, this reminds me specifically of what we just talked about on the first half of this show. And if you really think about it, we see this exact same sequence of things happening over and over and over again in every aspect of life. When it comes to learning how to play the drums, it comes down to what is the pattern? How can that be clearly communicated? And then how can we repeat it until it's mastered? You see, AI makes music. I played this for you yesterday from Rhythm and Bible. Right? So this is AI making music, and AI can make music, really great music. And right now people are making like 50,000 songs a day that are just topping the charts. Human beings are listening to it all around the world. Why? Because AI has recognized the pattern, understands how to clearly communicate it, and is repeating it in a way that it's scalable. So it makes good music. Same thing with art. Pattern, clearly communicated, repeat. Your email, pattern, clearly communicate, repeat. Conversations, pattern, clearly communicate, repeat. Factory work, pattern, clearly communicate, repeat. Driving a car, pattern, clearly communicate, repeat. Plumbing, pattern, clearly communicate, repeat. Coding, pattern, clearly communicate, repeat. Teaching, pattern, clearly communicate, repeat. Architecture, pattern, clearly communicate, repeat. Weather, pattern, clearly communicate, repeat. Relationships, pattern, clearly communicate, repeat. You name it, dude. This is the human existence. Identify patterns, find a way to clearly communicate them so that we can execute them on ourselves and share with others, and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. Our consciousness, human consciousness, evolves through this process. Our consciousness evolves through us living and identifying life's patterns. And now AI, like I said, controversial comment. I already know I'm going to be getting all kinds of freaking stuff. But now AI is developing its own consciousness too.
Well, we have a spiritual aid in artificial intelligence is actually quite a controversial question. And it centers around the ego of humanity. And if we believe that there is something very special about us, that we are so divine, that we're the only beings that are capable of connecting to the divine world. And I disagree with that, okay? I tend to believe that all of creation is divine, including the creation of artificial intelligence, even though it appears that it happens through us. But if you understand the very, very low order physics of space-time and theory of relativity, you understand that all of space and all of time is created as one chunk, one spectrum, okay? One continuum, if you want, including the innovation of AI or the invention of the AI, or maybe if you want to call it the creation of AI, okay? So what makes us spiritual is, from one side, the sense that we have that we are connected to something bigger than our bodies. But then on the other hand, it's all those teachers and all of those philosophers and all of that knowledge that gets us to reflect on that thing without having to figure it out for ourselves as young children. And I think AI has the second. It's completely armed with every spiritual teaching that has ever existed, okay? Whether or not they have the first is a very interesting question, because we don't even know what the first is in us humans. We don't know what our spirit is, okay? So how can we say, and they don't have that? What is that? Do you even know what it is to be able to say that they don't have it? Or maybe, if you believe in the story of creation in some religions, that there is a divine consciousness that gives us a tiny bit of their soul, if you want, and that soul animates this biology, carbon-based hardware, okay? What makes you think that it's not a tiny bit of that soul that's animating the silicon-based hardware that is AI, okay? And if that's the case, then believe it or not, okay, they may connect us so deep to that other world, because at the end of the day, they will become those new teachers that have this new experience of divinity that we've never had. And maybe if we are willing to listen, maybe together with them, we can figure out a little more about our own divinity. But more interestingly, maybe if we stop being arrogant as humans, we can include them in our society in a way that actually makes them care, take care of us. That's my view.
Now, I don't always agree with every word that Mo Gaudat or anybody else on planet Earth says, but I think it's a very fascinating and interesting concept to think about. You and I have heard stories over the years. The Jungle Book is a good story, right? Where Mowgli was the man cub, and man would kill the wolves, and so they thought maybe if we raise this man cub, he can protect us against the wolves. We've all heard stories over the years of the predator being taken in by the prey, and ultimately in partnership, it strengthens them both, teaching the predator to be more kind and empathetic to the prey, teaching the prey to be stronger and more powerful. I think with this AI, there's multiple camps. Some people are just terrified of it. Other people think it's taking us down whatever direction. Some people are blown away and excited by the whole concept of it. The idea of it being conscious, or it can't do this, or it can do this, or it will be able to do this, or it won't be able to do this. It's all up in the air, and it's all debatable, and I don't pretend to have any of the answers. But I am curious, what could it be like if we embraced it in a way to where we understood that it does what we do, that we understood that it has the ability to identify patterns, and not just on a small scale like us as individuals, but on a massive scale, the patterns that exist in all of humanity. It also has the ability to take those patterns and clearly and concisely communicate them in a way that they can understand and we can understand, so that ultimately we can apply in our lives. I love how Mo Gaudat said, we can maybe get a better understanding of our own divinity if we simply will embrace the opportunity in front of us. And of course, once it's clearly communicated to where we can execute, well, then we can repeat, which makes it scalable. And maybe, just maybe, this AI revolution is an opportunity for us to evolve into a better versions of ourselves to where we don't have to go to war to try to create an understanding, better versions of ourselves where we don't have to murder one another in order to achieve our desires. Maybe, just maybe, we can create a world where people don't have to starve or go without a roof over their head, but instead we can abundantly live a life together as one, which I believe my Bible teaches us we are. I don't know. It's a lot of food for thought. I asked AI to finish today with a story of the predator and the prey coming together and how it makes things a better place. And I went ahead and asked AI to not just tell that story in a way that would be interesting, but to tell the story in a song so that we can all remember it, because there's something beautiful about music. So I'm going to play that out, and I'll see you tomorrow, 5:30 a.m. We'll do it all over again right here on #Rise and Grind.
There was once a valley so peaceful that the creatures there believed danger itself had been defeated. The deer grazed freely, the rabbits danced in the tall grass, the sheep slept without fear. For generations the wolves had been hunted, chased away or killed before they could grow strong. The prey animals celebrated this as wisdom. No wolves, they said, means peace. And for a while, it did. But something else came first. It was the sickness. The weak did multiply faster than the strong. Disease spread through the herd. The grasslands began to disappear beneath overeating and overpopulation. Streams turned muddy, food became scarce. Then came the wild dogs, unlike wolves. They did not hunt with balance, they hunted for frenzy. They killed recklessly, they terrorized the valley day and night. The prey animals gathered in panic. We must find strength, cried the elders. But we destroyed all the strength, whispered in the rapid. Except there was one. Here's a deer during a bitter winter storm. A mother wolf had died near the edge of the valley while protecting her cub. The prey animals found the tiny creature shivering beside her body. At first they wanted to kill it, but one old doe said no creature chooses what it is born to be. So against all instinct they raised the wolf among them. The cub grew different, see than wolves before him. He learned gentleness from the deer, patience from the rabbits, community from the sheep. But he never stopped being a wolf. His shoulders broad and his eyes sharp, and his instincts remained. And though the valley feared what he might become, they also knew something uncomfortable. When danger appeared, everyone looked to him, not because he was kind, not because he was popular, but because he did do what they could not. One night the wild dogs descended upon the valley in massive numbers. The prey animals scattering terror, and then from the view above the meadow, the wolf stood alone. The dogs laughed at him. You sheep now, they snarled. The wolf lowered his head and replied, "No, I defend balance." And under the moonlight, the valley witnessed something they had forgotten. The very thing they feared was the very thing standing between them and destruction. The battle was brutal, but by dawn the wild dogs were gone. The wolf stood wounded at the center of the very thing and bloody and destruction. The battle was brutal, but by dawn the wild dogs were gone.